Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of GTMN. It is May 11th, Monday. We're on our new schedule.
Yep.
Austin, how did your Ironman training go last week?
Oh my God, this is becoming the topic every week. People are going to be so over it. I mean, it's exhausting.
Okay. So I did my first 4-mile run in practice towards my half marathon. And I did it. So I live in the hills in the peninsula in the Bay Area. And so it's up and down on the hills. And so the elevation gain was something like 800 feet over 4 miles. So it was pretty decent.
That's some serious vert.
Yeah. And I kind of just did the whole thing without stopping. And I was like pretty impressed with myself. I'm not going for time yet. I'm just like, can I last 4 miles? And I lasted 4 miles on the hills. So I felt like a surge of confidence that, oh yeah, I should be able to extend this into 13 miles.
Well, the real question was, how was the knee pain? Like, I feel like the reason you stopped was because of knee pain, right?
Oh, yeah. No. So I had like a weird wacko injury on my calf, and not while running. It was something weird that I did just like getting started. Don't even ask. So no knee pain because I, also do lots of strength training. What I've learned is like the actual sort of, leg muscles are pretty strong. So I don't end up taking too much stress on the bones or the joints. I just have to get into condition to last for like 2 hours of running, right? Which is not something that I've done.
You're going to do it. I believe in you.
Yep.
And also like, congrats. That's a lot of feet. It's not as hilly out here in DC. So 800 feet is like, it's a lot of climbing for a 4-mile run.
It wasn't like one stretch, right? It was like up and down. So I got some reprieve in the downhill, but still it was lots of like, uphill climbing, which was
still
intense.
A lot of feet to climb.
Yeah. All right. How's yours? Did you do much training this last weekend? When is your Ironman? When is that coming up?
Ironman's July 19th. Yeah, it's good. Did an 85-mile bike ride, and then I had to run 20 miles yesterday.
Oh my God, that's like 5 times what I ran.
Yeah, but I mean,
bonkers.
You're just starting on the journey. Honestly, I think it's just so humbling. Like it's very hard to do. I feel like the same as you in the respect of like, I'm just looking to survive here. Like I'm not looking to finish in a particular time. But when I see some of the athletes that do this, even, semi-professionally or even as an amateur, they're so fast and so strong. So it's like it's a deeply humbling experience because obviously you feel like you're growing a lot and you're getting faster, and obviously running and fitness is a very personal goal. But then, you can't help but just see what other folks are doing and just be amazed. It's so impressive.
I know.
So
okay, this one's funny. Yeah. While I was running, I was like halfway through and I was like, oh man, I have to do like another half. I'm like, just feeling it. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to my David Goggins. So I take out my phone and I turn on David Goggins just shouting at me for the rest of the duration. Well, and I was like, it's because it is super humbling. And I'm like, I just needed that extra motivation to get through it all.
So even with David Goggins, like, a really impressive guy. And then, so recently he did the Cocodona 250, which is 250-mile run over like 2.5 days. And it's like, it's a totally wild sport when you're running that long because you have like crews that help you and you're napping and, it's a very different experience. But person who won it was a gal, first woman ever to win it. And, never heard of her like the same way you've heard of David Goggins. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just like there are some incredible humans out there that are so fit and so strong and, and come from all walks of life. I mean,
250 miles? Did you say 250 miles?
250 miles. Yeah, the Cocodona 250.
This is like over 3-4 days or like how long is this?
Yeah, I think the winner finished in like 57 hours or something like that.
Oh my God. That is crazy.
It's just, It's insane. So anytime like I think it's hard, I just remember that like there's one component of it that I can control, which is my attitude, time, attention, and training fitness. And we all control that. There's another aspect that I can't control, which is like genetics. So, just be grateful for being able to do what you can do.
Indeed. All right. I had to start on that note. Like, sorry to all the listeners if you're not enjoying the running and the Ironman topics, but this is just part of life. So you're gonna get more of it. Okay, I'm gonna start with this piece of news. I don't think this is like relatively new, but this article came across my feed from Gartner. I don't always love the news from Gartner. Gartner, but they had some really, hot takes and zingers in this research report that they put out, where they say that 40% of agentic AI projects will fail, making humans indispensable. Like, that's the headline. And this was, essentially a poll of 3,400 organizations that they had conducted. And they said some really interesting things. They said the reasons cited for the failure is not that the agents don't work, it's that humans deploying them are making the wrong decisions. Most agentic AI projects right now are early stage experiments or proof of concepts that are mostly driven by hype and are often misapplied. Keeps going. Like, the failure rate is not random. It starts with fear of being left behind, fear of watching competitors move faster, fear of being the CMO who did not act when everyone else did. That fear is driving organizations to deploy agentic AI, not because they have a strategy, but because they cannot afford to be last. FOMO is not a strategy, and in the agentic era, it's an expensive mistake. All right, let's start there. Do you see FOMO in your customers, and do you agree with this take, or do you think that this is a little hyperbolic?
Yeah. I feel like did we talk about this last time? Every time I log into LinkedIn, I see what I'm calling like massive hypeware, which is, some workflow or solution or design or system that changes the world. And the one that I'm thinking of most recently was this like super sophisticated, apparently, system that like does customer research and like designs a custom website for every prospect and emails it to them. And then I like wrote on the person's LinkedIn, and I was like, literally show us one of these pages or it's hypeware. And it took like 4 days to get a response back. So that's how you know that it's bullshit. And so I think that's definitely happening. Do I think there's like actual real applications of AI in marketing that are actually super sophisticated and interesting? Yes, but they're happening at what I would argue are the organizations that were already world-class and ahead anyways. Like, for example, Ramp recently released some screenshots of their internal OS for revenue, and they also have an OS for sharing skills and other stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I kind of just think that like the best teams haven't changed in the sense that they're largely engineering driven and have lots of resources.
Completely agree. Actually, on that note, have you heard of this guy, Jacob Purcell?
No, tell me.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to give him some free marketing. Okay, so he announced this last week, if I'm not wrong. And I think this is very similar to the idea of Ramp sort of launching their internal directory of agents and AI and what have you. So he's calling this HQ. Used to work at like a marketing agency, and that has just gone like completely, AI pilled for the last couple of years. I think he even collaborated with Google, Gemini, and Nano Banana for, launching their stuff. And so the whole idea is that you create a team level sort of collaboration across all of the skills and what have you, not just on Claude Code, but also on Codex. And I think he's going to add other things in the future. And so it sits inside, all of these different systems. It manages your company's context layer, and then sharing of skills, standardizing the workflows, control access, all of the like typical enterprise SaaS stuff. So think of it as like a layer on top of Claude and Codex, and it's called HQ. I don't know what the website is. Let's check. Nope. I clicked through and I didn't see the website.
HQ by Indigo AI.
Yeah, there we go. So I don't know. It's I do think that there is something here, because I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit, right? So maybe I'm going to go to that UI, because you and I have been talking about this. There we go. Indigo, getindigo.ai. And this screen is literally what you and I were discussing a couple of weeks ago offline, right? Where you can do a lot of stuff solo, but then the team stuff gets really hard. And everyone's looking to solve this team AI problem. And the problem is, like, if you go all in on Claude and then you want to try out Codex, you have to kind of recreate everything. And that's the challenge that I think these guys have honed in on. So really interesting solution. I haven't tried it out, but I might give it a shot in the next like month or two for our team and see if it helps.
I am gonna sign up for a demo right now.
Boom.
Because it's pretty cool.
And on that note, what I was thinking actually, Austin, going forward, we might have some of these, founders who are launching net new solutions for, marketing teams and sales teams join us on this podcast going forward. So maybe I'll ask Jacob if he's free next week. We can dig into what he's seeing and from early traction, and we can go from there.
Oh, yeah. This is pretty cool. Yeah. And I guess the question would be, and we've talked about this before, like, does somebody solve this problem? Do people build it? Or do the giants like Anthropic and GPT build it? I suspect that this becomes a solved problem at like the Anthropic level at some point. Like, it's in their best interest, right, to build it. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of how, because there are multiple providers, if you have a large enough organization that's using Codex, for example, and Claude Code at the same time, how do you sync across two organizations that are different? Well, you have to have a third party. So it is interesting in that there's like a real business case for an independent third party synchronization layer to exist.
It's kind of like, if in large organizations, like your entire engineering team was on an Atlassian, but then your entire go-to-market team was on Notion, and you'd have like this, divide of two very distinct systems, and maybe there's a way to unify it all. And I can imagine stuff like that happening in larger organizations. It's a very enterprise-ish, capability here. Okay, couple of other things that I saw in that Gartner report, which was interesting. They coined this new term called agent washing. So this is a widespread trend where vendors are rebranding existing chatbots and automation tools as agentic AI without delivering genuine autonomous capabilities. I'm like, yep. Of the thousands of vendors claiming agentic solutions, Gartner estimates only around 130 offer real agentic features, which I agree with. This is the same thing that happens with attribution, where people just throw causal onto the, causal attribution, causal MMM, causal incrementality, and like think that just because you do the marketing right, that it somehow is causal. It's the same thing with agentic AI. Just add agentic doesn't mean that it's actually agentic.
That's hilarious.
Okay, another thing that
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this is what like the CEOs of big companies have been doing anyways. They're like, oh, we have all these productivity gains from AI. And it's like, no, actually, we just want to cut costs.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the best marketing campaigns from my perspective, this was actually from Brex. They had, they were using, I forget now the tagline, but the part that stuck in my head was they use a term called agentic finance. And when you shorten it, it sounds as AF. And so it's, whatever the headline is, AF. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty freaking dope for social. It's edgy, but it's pretty funny. Okay, another thing in that Gartner report that I found interesting, they call this positionless marketing. And I really like this. So for decades, marketing teams operated as an assembly line with handoffs. Positionless marketing breaks that model by giving marketers three transformative powers. Data power to immediately discover insights for precise targeting, personalization without waiting for engineers. Creative power to create channel-ready assets like copy, visuals without waiting for creatives. And optimization power to run campaigns that optimize themselves through automated journeys, testing without waiting for analysts. Handoffs eliminated. I kind of like that framing of positionless marketing. Like it's kind of like the generalist again. It's like marketer, marketing 101, and you now have the tools to not have to rely on tons of, collaboration with different team members. There's a downside to it because I think collaboration makes your, whole product better maybe, but sometimes it can be, a weight on you as well. So I like that framing, positionless marketing.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of this concept that I've been talking about, which is the idea of like single-threaded operators. When I was at Ramp, Jeff, our head of product, talked a lot about single-threaded teams, which, was kind of like the pod, era style of product management where you have, a product manager, a designer, an engineer kind of working on a problem, soup to nuts, and being the full accountable owner. Now, I think like that's distilled down to single operators, and especially in marketing, where just like you said, you caught all these pieces of the creative process. There's this flywheel that I often look at, which is like, how does work get done, right, before AI? It's exactly what you described. Like you come up with an idea somewhere, then it moves to creative, then that becomes a brief, and the brief becomes technical work, then that technical work goes back to creative, and then that eventually lands into some type of kind of surface area that gets deployed. And so there's this constant iterating back and forth between humans that's the inefficient part. And so now humans have the ability to do most of those steps and to bring in the experts whenever they're needing to kind of like add additional expertise. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it both works really well, but also it doesn't work well. Like I've seen lots of instances where this makes a ton of sense and is working, and lots of instances where it doesn't. As a great example, like I have this deck that I'm making for some talk I'm giving next week. I'm working with somebody else on it, and we were trying to follow our own, AI enabled marketing skills. So we sat down, we had a conversation, took that conversation and turned it into a substantial set of notes, and then I added more thoughts. So like this document really was a great living representation of the slides, and we even had AI go over, take those notes and drop it into individual slides. And then we had to create the slide decks. And I would just tell you that like creating slideware is like not a solved AI problem yet. Despite what everybody says it is, it's not a single threaded thing. I think it like probably is fine for like an 80% good enough thing. Like if you were just throwing something together to give to your company and you didn't really care that much about it. But especially if like you're putting your name and brand out there and this is something you deeply care about and you want it to look great, then yeah, I don't think deck making is actually a fully solved problem. Because like we gave this outline to 5 different options. We gave it to Gamma, we gave it to GPT, we gave it to Claude, I gave it to Claude Code, and they all created like pretty bad outcomes, right? And this was with giving them a template that an actual designer had made with all the components on it. So I don't know. I mean, this is the hard part, is that like, yes, people are getting faster and it's getting easier, but it's not like good enough yet that I think it's fully solved. And the example I see so often when people talk about creative is actually when you take something that already exists and you make a variant of it. And like there's lots of really good tools for asset creation of like single kind of small modular assets for websites or clothes or whatever. But something complex and nuanced, it's not good at.
Have you tried the Google Slides version of this yet?
Yeah. So I mean, inside of Google Slides?
So they just launched. So up until like last month, if you were trying if you were in Google Slides and there was an option at the bottom that used to say beautify the slide. When you click that button, it would take the content on that slide and then recreate it using Nana Banana. So it was doing essentially an image of what that slide should be. As of this month, I started seeing, instead of beautify, it actually says something like enhance the slide. And when you hit that button, it takes whatever content is on the slide and it creates the ship ready, production ready, actual like graphical content. Each element is separate. It's not an image. And I was impressed with the first time I tried it because it's literally sitting within Google Slides and it's reading all of your, existing sort of color and font preferences and what have you. But I agree, like none of these tools are there yet. They're all making good improvements over time, but yeah, none of them have like really nailed the presentation use case. I like Gamma. I'm a big fan. I like Claude's versions of some stuff, but again, like you said, it was on the edges. It wasn't great. So yeah, it's not a done market yet. It's not obvious who's going to win this.
Yeah. I mean, so I do have the AI stuff, but I guess like when I'm looking at Gemini, all I really see is the ability to refine existing content, not to like redesign or redo the entire thing. Like I wouldn't know today how to go from a Google Doc, like a content brief, to a full deck. And I would love to try it, right? Especially if I could give it the theme that already exists. But I think right now it's like, again, it's just not advanced enough, but it will probably get there. Like they will have sub prompts that allow you to take something from soups to nuts.
Yep. All right. So another news this last week, a couple of things that happened. One is Pinterest is now at $1 billion plus in revenue per quarter, 18% growth in Q1. The stock soared 15%, so really strong showing. And this was their 3rd consecutive quarter over $1 billion. So not just seasonality from Q4, but Q1 was really strong as well. And a couple of things that are interesting, they are in contrast with Snap, which is also a smaller advertising platform. But Snap actually had a 12% year-over-year revenue growth rate, but their stock was down 5% or something in after they announced, which is kind of crazy to see that Pinterest is growing faster than Snap. I would not have expected that, at least from a stock perspective. So yeah, I don't know why that is happening. Like, I've never been a Snap user. I don't know if you've ever been a Snap user. And Pinterest is somehow still lasting. I never thought that Pinterest would continue just growing like this, but it is.
Well, especially with the fact that now images are so easy to create, there's this question of, what's actually happening underneath the hood? Like, are people still pinning stuff? Is the growth actually being driven from AI generated content on Pinterest? Rather than having to create real images of different ideas, can you actually just auto generate it? I was not a big Pinterest user. I was also not a big Snapchat user. And I just wonder, who are these users? Like, I don't know who they are. They're not me.
There's, plenty of them, right? So I think in terms of, I don't know if I have the count of, global MAUs, 630 million people, man.
For Snap?
That is wild. For Pinterest.
Oh, Pinterest, yeah. So, then
630 monthly actives.
Question is like, is there a high concentration somewhere? And what is the use case?
Yeah, all right. We'll dig into like Pinterest user base a little bit more next. I'm just curious. There's
me too.
More than 500 million people. That's wild. Okay, another piece of news that was kind of related to this was you talked about like how much of this is like actually, AI generated. And so what I believe Meta has done, Instagram has done, is rolled out an AI creator label. So I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm a, somewhat, I would say like maybe a weekly active user of Instagram. So I'll open it once in a while. And I started seeing these like, lip syncing videos or like people singing videos. And they all look like really clean and really like, taking the most popular like trending songs and just like singing them out. And then I went on to one of these people's profiles and I'm like, there was like 30 videos and they all look like UGC style, right? I'm singing into the camera, random backgrounds. Like, who are these people? There's nothing in the bio. There's nothing else going on except them singing. And each of them has like, 100,000 likes. 7 million views, whatever. And after just like 5 seconds of it, I'm like, this is all AI. Like, this is all bullshit. And it turns out that is exactly the case. And that's why Instagram is rolling out this AI creator label where if you don't label your channel and your content as AI created, they're just gonna shove the reach down and give you a penalty. So it's starting to happen. And I don't know how this will shape up, but my take is like people don't want this shit, even though it, it's getting a lot of views, but like people like the Instagram and Meta must have some internal data on like this is causing some type of a, fatigue or usage issue or retention issue if you have all AI content on their platform. That's why they're doing this.
Yeah, it's I would just like love to talk to one of these people, like a like or click farm creator, right? Because like the unit economics are wild, right? Like how much does it cost to create the content on like a, I guess maybe you could be doing it if you're using a fixed cost basis for an LLM, but if you're using an API key, it's not going to be inexpensive. And then how much content do you have to create over how many accounts to get enough likes to get paid for that content, right? Because I don't know exactly how Instagram pays individual creators, but like there's some threshold you have to meet before you start getting paid for your views. And so like what's the minimum math that works out and how much content do you have to create over how many number of accounts? That is, we got to find a content click farm creator and interview them.
I like it. I might have somebody in mind for that. So
yeah, well, we can keep them anonymous. We can put one of those little voice anonymizers on. I just want to ask them how this works.
Okay, a couple of other pieces of news. So ChatGPT ads are fully self-serve. I think we talked about it last week. Maybe not. What I didn't realize is, so I signed up for it and it takes you to business verification. So you have to verify all your business details. I still haven't gotten access, but I'm excited about it. And then I realized that StackAdapt, which is this, open web ad platform, right? Think of it as like a demand side platform. They have access to ChatGPT ads. So if you have a StackAdapt account, you can actually launch on ChatGPT ads right away. You don't have to wait for your own sort of business verification. And that must be a really good business for StackAdapt right now. So whoever got early access to, like, they must be going to all their customers and saying, hey, don't have to wait for anything. Just use StackAdapt and get your ads launched on ChatGPT, which is pretty awesome. So I'm sure there's a lot of interesting things happening on ChatGPT. The other thing that I saw was that click-through rate on ChatGPT ads are 3.4%. Now, click-through rate doesn't mean much, but 3.4% is almost double of the average on search ads. I don't know if that means anything, if that says anything, but like that's what the early data is showing, which is interesting.
Double the click-through from search ads, which maybe makes sense, right? Like when you search for something on a console, you can go to a lot of different places. But if you're searching through something with GPT, you usually have an outcome in mind. Maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's fascinating. It's double the search console.
Double the search ads, right? So if you're the old school like Google search ads versus ChatGPT ads, like almost double of the average search ad, which is kind of bonkers. Again, it's very early days, right? Maybe it'll plateau out as it gets more diluted and right, it reaches more audiences, because right now there's just like maybe 30-40% of the US market. So they haven't released it. Like ads are not visible in all ChatGPT searches and users right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way it could be counterintuitive to what we talked about last time, which is that often when you're talking to GPT, you're not expecting to buy something. But I don't know. I guess it all depends on the context in which the person is operating the search, right? There's lots of times when you search when you're definitively not trying to buy anything and ads are still getting shown. And there's lots of times when you're doing the exact same thing in Deep GPT. So you're right. Maybe there's like a distribution problem going on here where, like there's just not enough N yet to really know for sure.
All right, a couple of other things. LinkedIn in the news. They grew 12% in Q1 of 2026. And I don't know if you've been following LinkedIn sort of virality sort of stuff, but essentially they've made a pretty big change in how their algorithm works. So it's a lot more about consistent expertise. And the numbers are basically all driven by this expertise-led advertising. So lots of thought leadership. And, even in our personal experience, like we did try advertising on LinkedIn and I'm a big fan. Most of the money, when we put like thought leadership ads and like regular ads next to each other, the algorithm would always go towards thought leadership ads. It would almost never be able to, beat anything. Any of the like static ads or video ads would never outperform thought leadership, which kind of makes sense to me. It's just a much more native style of advertising on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think LinkedIn is a mature network now. And there's a very big lesson that I've learned multiple times and have failed to act properly is that, if you can get distribution on an early network and then the network matures, you reap all the benefits, right? But if you don't have early adoption, like for example, now there's no meaning to having 20, 30,000 LinkedIn followers. Like if you have 100,000, you have a ton of reach and you have a lot of power. But even then, I've talked to people with 100,000 followers and they say, hey, overall viewership is just way down. So there was a lot of power for a period of time in that distribution audience, and that created like a moat. Now I think like it's just pay to play. It's a hype engine. There's a lot. It reminds me a little bit of X in the sense of like there's just like a lot of garbage on there now, and it's getting harder and harder to find the good stuff, which is a shame because I do feel like there was a long period of time where you could count on LinkedIn to be like a pretty reliable source of interesting information, and it's just I don't think it's trending that way anymore.
I see so much like you were talking about in the beginning, like so much just like, hey, I did this amazing thing with Claude, and I'm like, oh, it's just like, come on, man, like there's more to it. We don't have to reinvent everything through Claude just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've gone through this last month. So, I write on my newsletter, Growth Stock Mafia, and I have been writing. I haven't been publishing anything. I've just continued writing for personal joy. And it was because I hit this point in April where I felt like very fatigued from the hype machine that we're talking about, where, you got to be writing. And in order to be writing, you got to be online. You got to grab people's ideas and you got to be publishing. And I just like wanted to go cold turkey on it for a while to like reset my kind of my own like personal balance with it. But it's weird because, on one hand, I found it very fulfilling to write and share about ideas and to learn from others. But at the same time, it was like both addicting and kind of created this latent pressure that wasn't good. And I've talked to a couple founders now, and what they've helped me realize is that, like, for better or for worse, like a lot of the people that are online now are the ones who are already successful. Sure, there are cases of rising stars who are able to break out, but you have to really want it. And usually there's like something else going on that's not related to you. Like oftentimes it's like a business is doing really well, and the business doing well is what is driving your followership. And so like if you're just trying to create an audience for the sake of trying to create an audience, it's just really, really challenging. And you have to almost make it like you're like a maniacal commitment. And I don't know if I want that for my life.
There we go. Well, you gotta. I mean, I'd much rather you and I prioritize your Ironman and half marathon training than just publishing for the sake of publishing, right? There are
Well,
better
yeah.
ways to. Yeah.
And this is the thing, Pranav, like there's only so much time in the day, right? You can only do so many things. So, whether it's Ironman training or half marathon training or kids or writing or development, all these things take time. And the more things, I think there's this misconception that AI is like allowing us to do more with less. And I think it's allowing us to do more with more, right? Like,
Yes.
I talked to this team recently around this concept that I'm calling human RAM, which is like we're reaching this point where the only limitation in your ability to do things is how much mentally you can actually like manage across all these different surface areas, right? And
Agreed.
it's not just the agents you're running on your machine, it's life, it's your marketing team, it's the growth initiative, like all these things take up a little piece of your brain. And so now like a part of our brain used to be reserved for like 3 to 5 projects, and we would have to work through those and we'd write a list and we'd conquer them. Now that little surface area is spread across like 100 projects and 100 different agents. And I think it's just people are hitting their limits. And the other thing too is that like it's creating this big risk that I'm seeing for CEOs where they'll have like an early stage operator who, for example, on marketing is like the growth person, and they like stand up all the systems and they do all the things and they create all the routines, and then they leave. And like all of their routines are locally on their machine, which brings us back to the first part with Jacob. It's like I think there is like a lot of risk right now in like the individual nature of how AI is helping people.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think about our own experience. We have a GTM engineer. He's awesome. And he's taken an interesting point of view. He's building everything through Zapier and through sort of, he's not doing anything locally on his machine. He's doing it through Zapier and through sort of, team accounts and what have you, because he loves the auditability of that rather than it being tied to his personal identity.
Totally.
But
well, I mean,
makes
that's
sense.
a smart systems architect, right? Like designed for
Yep,
things that scale
exactly.
beyond yourself. But guess what? Marketers are not system architects. Neither are salespeople.
Yes.
Right? Like a lot of the
Yes.
people who, I guess are calling themselves engineers on LinkedIn are not actually architects. And so we're going to find ourselves in this position with like a lot of tools that are connected to personal accounts.
Indeed. Okay, one last piece before we close this out. So on the same sort of topic of LinkedIn, they apparently are now on Amazon's DSP or demand side platform for CTV. So you can now target LinkedIn B2B segments on Amazon's DSP. So you can say, hey, create this audience of Fortune 500 IT decision makers while they are watching streaming TV on Amazon's, Prime or any of the connected sort of Amazon streaming TV platform. So this is a direct shot at Google's DV360. So previously you would do this on Google's DV360 and Microsoft. I forget often that Microsoft owns LinkedIn. Microsoft's like, hey, we're going to partner with Amazon and do the same thing. So pretty interesting launch. If you're advertising on LinkedIn, go check out Amazon DSP for LinkedIn B2B segments.
Crazy. I mean, do you think that like more ad networks like this will continue to offer kind of broad cross-channel coverage?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Facebook and I don't think they've publicly announced it, but like Facebook getting into CTV, Microsoft and Amazon getting into, video and CTV, all because I think if you think about it, like none of this is new. It's just like people are finally realizing that video is where attention needs to be. And if you don't have your own inventory for video, which very few people have, then you have to go and connect into these other parties. And the way you do that, the way you add value is bringing your audience with you, right? So LinkedIn has the moat for LinkedIn is the audience. So let's take that and make that, possible to activate in any and every channel out there, not just the LinkedIn feed. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense for them.
Fascinating. Wonder where this all going to go.
Just more people watching TV. That's it.
So nothing has really changed then.
Nope. It's all just like who is powering the screen, but it's all about the screens. It's all about the screens. It's interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. What's interesting?
I opened up Reddit this morning just in like doing some research for this show, and I like to kind of go through and see what people are posting about. And there's a lot of like interesting posts on Reddit from in the advertising subreddit or the digital marketing subreddit where people are like, I'm so tired of all the automation and the AI. I just want to go back to the Ogilvy. These are like operators in advertising and performance marketing, right? And they're like, I just want to go back to the Ogilvy days. I look at the ads that, we used to generate, and now I open up LinkedIn and X, and it's all just so formulated and templatized and just boring. And so there is a yearning for creating good stuff. And, sometimes TV offers that, right? The quality for video, the bar for video is much higher than the bar for like static ads on Meta or LinkedIn or X. And so I do think that you will see just the human attention go more and more towards those types of formats, more video, because that's where people want to spend their time. They don't want to be on a feed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it also strikes at what I think is the great irony of AI, which is that as it becomes easy and easier to do stuff with AI, there's going to be a counterculture of not using AI to do things, and those will probably perform better, even if they're more expensive.
Exactly. All right, Austin, another great episode. Thank you for joining me.
Another week done, man.
Folks, tune in again next week. We're gonna spice things up a little bit, have some guests. So I'm gonna see if we can get somebody on for next week, and we'll looking forward to next week's show.
Have a great week, everybody. Bye.